Welcome to Joy Recovery Radio, the place where couples like you can discover healing and hope after sexual infidelity and betrayal trauma. We're here to share insights, strategies, and real-life stories that support both sides of the recovery journey. We're passionate about getting this message of hope and healing to as many couples as possible. The best way you can help us do that is by engaging with our podcast. Please take a moment to follow us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Liking our episodes and leaving a 5-star review also makes a huge difference, helping others find our community when they need it most. Let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome back to Joy Recovery Radio. In this episode, we're starting a new series in which we're going to work our way through the various categories of what's called IAD behaviors in the Minwalla model. We've done a few episodes on the Minwalla model. And he talks about a set of abusive behaviors called integrity abuse disorder. There's 48 of them in his model, and we've broken them down into categories, and we're going to do a deep dive into each category. I'm Roy, and I'm glad to have with me today my incredible wife, Jacqueline.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So today we're diving into what is considered one of the most painful aspects of this journey, and that is deception and manipulation. Now, I'll warn you, this is a very heavy topic, but one we feel is crucial to address head-on for both understanding and healing.
Absolutely. And when we talk about deception, we're also talking about manipulation. And ultimately, all abuse is about control. In the context of these IAD behaviors, with deception and manipulation, we addicts engage in a whole web of lies. Everything from just lying to your face, to lying by omission, to gaslighting, to half-truths, trickle truths, a revision of history, and constant cover-ups of our behavior. It was like building our life on a house of cards. And we addicts were constantly terrified that some breeze would come along and bring it all crashing down.
Well, it didn't feel like a breeze for the betrayed partner. On the other side of that, it feels like the very ground beneath your feet has given way. It's an emotional earthquake, not just a breeze for us.
And that's why I'm glad we do this podcast together, because I can bring the perspective of the addict and you can bring the perspective of the betrayed partner when we look at a complex, multi-layered topic like this.
Me too. I love that.
So I'm going to speak primarily from the addict side. Why do we deceive? For me, it wasn't born out of a desire to intentionally hurt you, to cause destruction and damage in your life. Though I want to be really clear, that was the outcome. It did severe damage and it devastated you and our coupleship. For me, the lies pre-existed our relationship. The lies were primarily about 3 things for me. It was a habit that was formed to protect myself early on in childhood. But when I look at that habit, there were 2 primary reasons that I would engage in a lie or a deception. It was usually damage control or image management or both. It was a desperate attempt to protect what Minwalla calls my secret sexual basement, which is a whole hidden world of deceptive sexuality that no one knew about, including you. And I didn't want that to ever see the light of day, thus the deception.
And from my side, this is an aspect of where my intuition was completely shattered. When things fell off or my gut screamed that something was wrong, the answer I got from you was often designed to make me question myself from being gaslit. That's where we get into the nitty-gritty of these behaviors.
All right, so let's break this down into categories. And the very first one we're going to start with is the most fundamental, and that is lying. It's like outright, bold-faced lying, and lying by omission. So an outright lie is pretty obvious, right? You ask if I went there and I say, no, I didn't go there. I was at work. But it was a lie. I really was there. That's pretty clear. But lying by omission is a lot sneakier. It's stealthy. And from my perspective, I often rationalized that my omission wasn't, quote, technically a lie. My brain would whisper to me, well, I didn't say that I was doing anything wrong. I just didn't tell her everything. And it was a way to maintain this facade of innocence while still living a double life. I felt like, well, this is the lesser of two evils. This is less directly confrontational than just lying to your face. And so it actually made it a little bit easier to do. But in reality, lying by omission is equally damaging as lying to your face. And you could argue it's actually more damaging.
Absolutely. For me, the lies by omission in some ways were worse because they created a sense of confusion. It was crazy making. I personally questioned everything. I thought I knew about our shared life. It's the difference between being punched in the face and slowly being poisoned.
Hmm.
Both are extremely harmful and painful, but one is a more insidious attack on your very perception.
It is insidious. And that ties directly into the next category we're going to talk about. And that is when we addicts engage in deceptive tactics and manipulations. This is a broad category. Now we're not talking about just individual lies that I say to you or lying by omission. Now we're talking about strategy. Now we're talking about a campaign to control your reality. For me, this looked like deflecting your questions or changing the subject. Or there were times that I would make you feel guilty for being suspicious or even asking the question. And I would say things like, why can't you trust me? Or I would shame you. And I would say something like, well, I really appreciate you assuming the worst about me. I can see how you perceive me now. And really, I was playing the victim, trying to get sympathy. And it's a subtle way of Darvo. Darvo is where I become the victim and you're the abuser. You're the perpetrator. You're mistreating me. And it causes you to begin to question your reality. It's this elaborate dance that I engaged in to maintain my secret sexual basement.
It's really cruel, actually. And I know that we're not on camera, but if we were, everyone could see that I'm just shaking my head.
Mm.
I know for a lot of betrayed partners, one thing that is parallel in our stories is our partners would strategically start an argument about something trivial just before we would ask a question or inquire about his whereabouts or ask a question about his past and the acting out. There is always some sort of instance where you'll hear about the betrayer attempting to create a diversion or emotionally exhausting the betrayed partner so she doesn't have the energy to dig deeper into the real issues. It's incredibly cruel, emotionally draining,
Mm.
and over time, it completely destroys our sense of reality and keeps us in a very high state of becoming hypervigilant.
Yeah. Next category is really a category unto itself, and that is gaslighting. Psychologically, gaslighting is when I target your sense of self or your memory or even your very sanity. It's not that you're just imagining things. It's me convincing you that that never happened or you're crazy for thinking that. My goal, and often I wasn't even conscious of this, but my goal, if I'm honest, was to make you doubt your reality and begin to believe my false reality. even if it meant that you thought you were losing your mind. It doesn't get much more cruel than that. And I deeply regret engaging in gaslighting with you.
In a short summary, gaslighting is crazy making. And it comes from years and years of the addicts being able to manipulate others. They've had a lot of practice at it. So it comes naturally for them, whereas it doesn't come naturally for the betrayed partners.
When it came to my reality, for decades, I had been protecting the secret basement by deceiving everyone. And that was reinforced over decades to where my brain literally began to think lying is the only safest option. Even though it was a temporary safety, and it was really a false safety, it was a vicious cycle. In my mind, the worst thing that could possibly happen when it comes to the secret basement is truth-telling. That is the riskiest choice. Whatever you do, don't do that. And so my addiction fueled my deception.
And I would say it built up over time, didn't it?
It sure did.
It wasn't just one big lie. It was 1,000 little ones, like tiny cracks, until eventually everything exploded.
Yeah. And that explosion is where the true devastation happens, which leads us to the next category, which is covering up. This is where the lie becomes not only psychological, but actually physical, like deleting browser history or creating a fake email account or buying a hidden burner phone, fabricating receipts, developing these elaborate alibis and stories of where we really were, what we were really doing, secretly moving money around or secret bank accounts or credit cards. Anything we could do to erase all the tracks of what we did. You can imagine the enormous amount of mental energy this requires to juggle all these lies and to cover it up. My brain was in a constant state of hypervigilance, constantly assessing threats. How do I hide this? What did I say about that lie? And how does it correspond to this lie? And is she on to me? Who might find out about this? So I was constantly in a state of stress.
One thing that I have noticed since recovery for you is before it felt like you were very absent-minded. I would say something or we would have something on our agenda to do, and you would completely forget about it, which now makes sense because looking back, I don't know how you juggled everything, to be honest. Like you were juggling a completely separate life and then coming home and being your jovial self and then trying to carry out our life together.
Here's the dual reality. As the addict, me sitting on the secrets is causing incredible damage to every system in my body. My mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, everything is being damaged by all this deception. But it's also damaging you, especially when the secret becomes exposed. And there is what we call D-Day, this devastation day.
The effort, I think, that is put in to maintaining a double life is almost as shocking as the discovery of the acting out behaviors.
And that leads us to the next category, which is unfortunately very common. This is where we men, we present partial disclosures as if it's a full disclosure. Sometimes this is called trickle truth. It's where we addicts, quote, confess, but it's just a percentage. And often that confession is only when we're confronted with some kind of irrefutable evidence that we can't deny. But here's our hope. If we give you a piece of the truth, that you will assume that we've given you the whole truth and you won't dig anymore. And you'll move on. You'll get over it. And there will be no more questions. It's a strategy to minimize the fallout and the damage. My brain would tell me, okay, I will tell her 20%, and then maybe she'll back off,
Mm-hmm.
and we won't have to talk about the other 80%. And once again, this is all about control. And this is not being honest.
The Trickle truths were incredibly traumatizing. I can remember every time a new discovery came out, it ripped the wound completely open again. And I'd go back to ground zero, and sometimes below ground zero, I would compare it to 1,000 paper cuts instead of just one clean incision,
Hmm.
because it chips away at your ability to trust any information coming from the betrayers. How can you heal if the wound keeps getting reopened?
Exactly.
So I'll give an example for the listeners. Let's say that there is a husband who tells his wife, and I hate this, it was just porn, or you know everything. I cannot stand the minimizing. It was just porn, or you know everything. And a year later, after we, the betrayed partner, start to build trust again, and we're believing it was porn, there were no acting out partners, then we discover that there were acting out partners, and he had been having a physical affair for years. So the full disclosure was merely a carefully crafted, limited confession to put us in a state of calm so we can only be re-traumatized again.
Yeah, one way to put it is if a disclosure isn't full, if it's still concealing some secrets, it's not a disclosure.
It is not.
It's another deception.
And don't do that, please. If you're going to do a full disclosure, I promise you the truth is going to come out. You are not doing your partner or yourself any favors by covering any secret or hiding information. For the betrayers, you no longer get to filter out what your partner gets to know. She gets to know the truth and all of the truth, or as much as the truth as she wants to know.
At joy-recovery.com, we offer personalized recovery coaching to help you move from pain to purpose. We also provide supportive groups where you can connect with others who truly understand. So, whether you're battling addiction, healing from betrayal, or rebuilding a brand new relationship, you're not alone. We can help. Go to joy-recovery.com today.
The last category is revising facts and history. This is where we try to rewrite the past as if we could do that. Events that happen are denied by us, conversations are twisted, timelines are altered to all fit into our false reality. It's a very sophisticated form of manipulation, and it can make the betrayed partner feel like they really are going crazy because now they're questioning their own memories of what happened.
You know, one thing that comes up for me is when I've been told that X, Y, and Z happened and it was during this timeline, but going back to that question and re-asking it, getting the response of, I don't remember, or I forgot. That is really difficult because it invalidates my own lived experience. And it feels like a personal attack on my reality, making it very difficult to even process what happened because the facts keep shifting and now you can't remember, or looking back, yeah, it didn't happen at that point. That was before I met you. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And in fact, in our coupleship several years ago, we removed certain phrases from our vocabulary.
Yes, we
And
did.
one of those phrases was, I don't know. And the other phrase was, I don't remember. Because that was weaponized in the past. And so that will trigger you anytime I use those phrases. And so it's been removed. It's not a part of our relationship. And instead, when you ask a question about the past, I either tell you exactly everything I remember, or if the initial truth is, I don't know, or I don't remember, it's very cloudy for me, that's not what I say.
Right.
What I say is, I am going to reflect on that. I'm going to look at all the evidence that I can find. I'm going to try to find associations that help me remember the details of that. And I'm going to circle back to you and tell you everything I come up with in my investigation. Because I don't want to speak for you, but I think what you hear when I say, I don't remember or I don't know, that's not what you hear. What you hear is, I don't care and you're not worth the effort.
And I would ask you a question just to test your truthfulness if you were going to be completely transparent. And these were questions that I already knew the answer. But if you would have said, I don't remember, when I knew for a fact that you did remember,
Mm-hmm.
it would completely annihilate any trust that I had established with you.
And I think that's one of the reasons that there is this dynamic where the betrayed partner will end up asking the same question
Yes.
multiple times. She's not stupid and she doesn't have a poor memory. She knows what you said last time in your answer. She's seeing, are you going to change your answer? Are you consistent? Are you telling the truth every time? I ask.
Well, that's one reason. But another reason is because you've gaslit her so many times that what I found is I started to confuse one story with another story. And then in my head, I couldn't make sense did that happen when he was out of the country? Or did that happen when we were on vacation together? So I start mixing up my stories because I've been gaslit so many times. And if I ask you again, I'm just trying to make sense of my own reality.
Yeah.
So I'm not continuing to mix up information. So some of it, yeah, it's to measure your truthfulness and your integrity. And some of it is just being gaslit for so long, you can't remember what goes with what.
That's the kicker, is with all these repetitions of lying, here's what typically happens for the guy. He stops lying about the basement, but he keeps lying about non-basement stuff that's insignificant, that has nothing to do with sex addiction. And then he has this epiphany, what the heck is wrong with me? I'm lying about meatballs and cheeseburgers and things that have nothing to do with anything. And it feels like a reflex to avoid any discomfort, any shame, getting in quote trouble with my wife. It's like the brain has a default setting of conceal and deny everything. Now that can be reprogrammed, and I've experienced it, and there's hope. But it does feel like the default setting of the brain.
And it takes a toll on the betrayed partner's physical and mental health. So much so that many betrayed partners may experience anxiety attacks, depression, chronic fatigue, and even physical symptoms like stomach issues or headaches, and sadly, autoimmune disorders, because their nervous system is constantly in overdrive. And I can say I'm one of those betrayed partners.
Yep. And there's many. And this is a heavy topic, and I don't mean to make light of it. That's not, when I inject a little bit of humor in this process, it's not because I don't see the gravity of this topic, but some of the lies are so ridiculous, it almost makes you chuckle. We know of one addict in our community who tried to convince his partner that the reason he was always working late was because his office had adopted a brand new European work schedule. And that's what he told his partner.
I know. And sadly, because we trust or trusted our partner so much, we believed it. She believed it.
Mm-hmm.
It shows just how much we want to believe our partners and how convincing the deception can be.
Yeah. So let's get to the path forward and let's get to rebuilding truth. How do we begin to repair this devastating impact of all of our deception, especially for someone dealing with addiction where deception often becomes deeply ingrained in our brain? For someone who is in active addiction, deception becomes a survival mechanism. It's how we protect the basement. It protects the addiction from exposure and allows us to continue our compulsive behavior. So breaking out of that cycle of lying requires a multifaceted approach.
Yeah, and for the betrayed partner, this radical honesty has to be a non-negotiable, with the caveat that it's terrifying.
Hmm.
It often involves being re-traumatized as new truths emerge. So, for the betrayed, the path forward must be to prioritize our safety, which can mean establishing clear boundaries, ensuring the addict is engaged in a rigorous recovery program, which he keeps you informed about,
Mm-hmm.
and having a support system in place. A therapist, support group, trusted friends or family, a community, an accountability partner or partners.
Okay, for us men, let's get to some strategies for repairing the damage and living a life of truth-telling. So let me give you just a couple of action items going forward. Number one, we've got to embrace radical, or what I call at times ridiculous honesty. This really is the cornerstone of recovery and is the foundation of any hope of a future intimate relationship with your partner. It has to start with the truth. So that means that you commit to tell the truth even when your brain screams at you to stop, don't do this. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it has consequences, no matter what, you're committing to radical, ridiculous transparency. So this is about retraining the brain. Each time you choose to tell the truth, even about something seemingly insignificant or small, you're strengthening those neural pathways that support honesty and integrity. It's like building a new, clearer path in your brain. Number two, seek support and accountability. Our addiction thrives in secrecy. Bringing deception into the light through trusted relationships is absolutely vital. The act of confessing or simply being honest about our struggles immediately reduces the load on your brain. You're no longer expending this immense mental energy maintaining all of these lies. This frees up your brain to start making healthier decisions. Number three, practice mindfulness and self-awareness. Many of our deceptive behaviors feel automatic. But when we develop mindfulness, it helps us have this pause before acting on an impulse, such as the impulse to lie. We become more aware of our internal signals, the anxiety rising inside of us, this urge to conceal and hide. And it can create a small window of opportunity to choose a different path this time. This strengthens your brain's impulse control. And finally, number four, men, embrace the discomfort. Early in the process of stopping deception and starting the new habit of truth-telling, your discomfort level is going to be super high. That's because it's working. Your brain is adjusting. It's forming new, healthier neural pathways. This is to be expected. The honesty muscle is getting stronger and stronger, and that's a good thing.
And this takes time, a lot of time. Trust is like a fragile porcelain vase. You can shatter it in an instant, but gluing it back together piece by piece is very painful. And it also takes a lot of patience and dedication. And even after it's been shattered, once you glue it back together, the cracks are always going to be there. There will always be a reminder of what was broken. Unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the reality. But once it's glued back together, the goal isn't to make the vase look exactly as it did before. That's not possible. It's to create a new, stronger vase that has been reinforced by repair. For me, accepting that the original vase might not ever be fully restored was a crucial part of my healing. It's about building something new, something honest from the wreckage. And now, the vase that we've constructed, while it does have cracks in it, those cracks give it character, and I feel like our vase is more solid and sturdy now than it ever has been.
And I agree. And it's beautiful to see how God has brought beauty and meaning from the ashes. And it's important for the guys to know that this is not a linear process. You don't just make a commitment to truth telling and everything is unicorns and Care Bears and rainbows. There are good days and bad days. And there's going to be times when you feel like you're making huge strides and others where you feel like you're back to square one D-Day. We want to share a final image that has helped us, and that is the Brooklyn Bridge. In the Brooklyn Bridge, construction began in 1869, and it was not completed until 14 years later. It was an incredibly ambitious project for its time, pushing the boundaries of engineering and materials. In fact, it was the first bridge to use steel cables. However, fast forward over 100 years, it's still widely used today. It remains an icon. It's heavily used as a transportation artery connecting Manhattan and Brooklyn into New York City. It literally carries millions of commuters and tourists and cars, bicycles, and pedestrians every year. Think of the trust in your relationship as the Brooklyn Bridge, and deception has burned that bridge down. Rebuilding it takes strong, honest pillars of truth, poured concrete of consistent behavior, and steady hands that work together. It is a long construction project. And some of you are thinking, wait, 14 years? Well, let me ask you, is she not worth it? Is your coupleship not worth it? How many years did you spend destroying that bridge? But you can build a new bridge, and it's one that's built on a foundation of integrity. And it will eventually bridge the chasm, the gap that's created by the past. And that new bridge, it's still going to bear the scars of its construction and the damage from before. But it can lead to a more authentic, deeply connected, emotionally intimate relationship, deeper than you've ever had before. Now it's no longer a relationship built on fantasy or a facade, but on reality.
So thank you all for joining us today. This journey is challenging, but there is hope. Roy and I are testaments that you can heal and grow together. We're sending you strength and hope. And please join us next time as we explore the next categories of IAD behaviors.
That wraps up another episode of Joy Recovery Radio. We hope our conversation today brought you clarity, comfort, or a new perspective on your journey. Remember, healing is possible, and you don't have to walk this path alone. To learn more about how we can support you, visit us at joy-recovery.com. There, you'll find information about our individual and couples coaching practice designed to provide tailored support for both addicts and betrayed partners. You can also explore our various online groups, offering safe and confidential spaces for connection, shared experience, and growth. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, choose joy.